It's the moment you've all been waiting for. We're going to be talking about fan submitted mocks today on the Bionicle Inspiration series. If you submitted your mocks to the submission email, it's the one on your screen right now. It has a chance of appearing on a fan submitted mocks episode. It can also appear in any regular episode, but you get a bigger chance here on a fan submitted mocks episode. So will you be in today's episode? Only one way to find out. Let's dive into the very first mock today. It's built by Chris Karnak, and this is P4W Droid. I mean drone. Why did I say droid? It is great to see my boy Chris making another awesome build, and it's even better to see it using this awesome color, which is pearl sand blue. So this is just, a really strange color, but it's also really pretty, which is nice. This color comes on the classic Technic Super Battle Droid set, and it's just a delight to see so much of it on this mock. You know, I love seeing unique colors in action, and it's just a big old delight to see it merged with some light bluish grey, a tiny little bit of yellow and some trans pink too, but I think the best part are these tiny little hints of red. I think red and pearl sand blue is a surprisingly nice color combination. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but I just really like that. And the fact that the red is just localized onto these whip wire pieces here, I think that's also really nice. I just love seeing those whips on Bionicles. I think there's just something cool about the aesthetic of really thin wires, and especially when they're kind of sticking out like this. It just feels, I don't know, I guess like realistic for a robot kind of build. To me, heaps of wires for, biomechanical organisms or robots is just really fitting. So I don't know what it is. I think it's just a really good inclusion. If you have those whips, use them on your mocks. Whether or not you want to, you don't have to, but it'll at least make me happy. And maybe I'm being selfish in saying that, but I like that aesthetic. So great to see it here. Anyway, there's another perfect detail on this, which is the little candlestick piece that looks a little bit like a kind of support column or a piston of sorts. It links the sword into the arm, and it's a really nice touch. There's lots of lovely little system details all throughout this, like the fingers being slightly extended. There's a nice droid arm in the center of the body. That's just cool. And a few other little greebles with some 1x1 pieces and stuff. It's just really well thought out and looks good. Nice work, Chris. Prakinogen has built Proxy. Now, I'm going to start off with one of the cooler pictures here, this one. What a rad pose. I mean, look at them like Matrix style leaning back with the awesome chains on their jacket, like flying around. It looks super cool. It's just a really good look. I think that pose alone actually sells this mock for me. I immediately get the sense that this is a cool dude with style. I mean, they've got to have style when they've got cool, like, street signs hanging all over their body. I mean, if you're even thinking about checking out their butt, you better stop right now. Thank you very much. Anyway, it's been a while since I've seen this kind of head design on a Bionicle mock. The Rakshi head flipped over with a stud over the little gap at the top of the head. It forms, a nice eye design, and it makes for a nice enough head design too. But you used to see that design all the time back in the day, back before like Bionicle G2 and earlier days of Bionicle being on the shelves and all that. It's a bit refreshing and good to see that brought back on a more modern mock like this. And also, this dude has a really, really sick jacket. I mean, it's hard not to love a good jacket. So, this is a really cool build. Our next mock is by a bosom car, and this is Something Wicked. It's really nice to see a great, menacing build like this. This is a cool evil dude with big claws, long, sinister-looking face, really, striking pink eyes that just, stare into your soul. He is clearly evil. And then we got this pose of him doing peace signs. So, you know what? Maybe he's not so bad. Maybe he's kind of a lovable guy. But look, the build itself, really cool. I'm a big fan of these silver tubes that are coursing all throughout the body. Seeing them kind of ebb and flow on the torso. It's probably actually one of my favorite parts. There's just something really nice about the curve of that. Just really like it. This stand that goes with the mock is also cool. Just seeing a big head statue thing, it just feels very in line with the vibe of Bionicle. We look back at some of the older imagery from the games and stories and stuff, you kind of would always see big old heads all throughout the landscape and stuff. So seeing that on this build is a nice kind of throwback. It just feels very fitting. Oh yeah, and then anytime spring green, or I believe it's called yellowish green on Bricklink, I might be wrong there. Anytime that color is used, like we see on the fingernails and just scattered all throughout the build, that makes me a happy man. I do enjoy seeing that color, and it pops very nicely up against the black here. Really cool. Babolka Ione Kalen has built Dragonhead Knight. It's always nice to see old dragon head pieces being used on Bionicle mocks, because they work pretty well with that Bionicle look, even though they weren't actually Bionicle pieces, strictly speaking. These pieces came on some of the old Viking sets, so we can see the silver one that's being used here was used as ornamentation on the Viking catapult that is fighting this dragon. Vikings was so cool. It's nice that we're slightly getting it back, but I'd love it if we had dragons with the Vikings as well, and if we got a whole range of Viking sets, that would be nice, please, Lego. Anyway, Using that dragon head here on the head of this guy and putting flames in the eyes, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's also nice because to me, that kind of gives me this idea that those are, some sort of weird elemental magic that's like possessing this corpse and giving it life, and the magic just sort of like flows out of the eyes in a very sinister way. So, I think that's a cool concept. Whether or not that's the intention, I don't really know, but that's what I see, and I like that. There's also a pretty nice sword and shield on this guy here. I love a good sword and shield. Never underestimate that for a weapon. It can be nice to give him a big old javelin or a huge gun or whatever, but a classic sword and shield, it works. Nice to see it here. Sidhari Creations has built Spinosaurus Mock. It is always so lovely to see a good dinosaur build, because dinosaurs are super cool. The pieces on the back here, making the sort of spine part of this, all these different lift arm pieces. I'd say that's kind of the MVP on this mock, because there's just many of them being used, and it forms a lovely looking spine, but even more lift arms are being used to form the belly here. So it's great to see the same piece in varying sizes, and sometimes you get the curved lift arms as well, but it's good to see the repetition of so many of those pieces, because it actually works really, really well here. And I always talk about buying pieces in bulk on Bricklink or something to kind of save on cost a little bit, and then, it often looks really good just to spam the same kind of pieces in different ways. So this is just a perfect example of how nice that can look. Seeing so many lift arms, it kind of reminds me of the old Technic dinosaur set that I'm showing you right here. Back when this came out, LEGO had a lot more kind of limited amount of pieces that they could use in sets, just because a lot of pieces didn't really exist back then. There weren't as many molds for different parts. But I think the result of this actually creates a really wonderful charm to this classic LEGO set. This one's using a lot more Technic bricks than the specific Technic lift arms, but they're still fairly similar pieces. But, looking at this dinosaur design, it's a very minimal design. It looks almost more like a frame than an actual dinosaur. But like I said, it's got that old classic LEGO charm. Maybe if this was built as an actual set or as a more modern mock, you might see a cloth piece being used for the spine on the back. But the choice to use heaps of lift arms, it's just a lot of fun, and it feels so within the vein of classic LEGO, and I like that. As nice as a good modern organic mock looks, using lots of cool curved pieces and making it look nothing like LEGO, sometimes when you really heavily lean into that LEGO aesthetic, it's just really special, and I think this is exactly that. Also good that the mouth opens and closes, and it appears to have a decent amount of posability, at least on the neck. I don't know so much about the other parts of it, but good amount of posability is always a good thing. Really solid dinosaur mock here. Tinu Mechs has built ranged mechs. Now this is a bit of a different one. It's a big old walking tank. Gotta love that. That's really cool. Seeing them all in this one shot here, each with different types of missiles inside of them and stuff, it makes me think that, maybe there'd be whole armies of these and there'd just be a big old battle happening, these fighting something else. It's really cool. And then it got me thinking about like tabletop roleplay, but with Bionicles for your armies. You're having big tanks like this, they're fighting other robots and stuff. And then I got really excited because that's an awesome concept. And then I got really sad because that doesn't exist, but it could exist in your house. Why don't you build something like this and have a big old war battle with them just like you used to when you were a child? Because I don't know, that's electrifying, and that's a really cool concept. And if you're into tabletop roleplay games, or your Warhammer, for example, something like this could be a lot of fun. Anyway, the actual build itself, looking at this one here, the way that the ammo is loaded into the turret, just kind of slotting it in up the top, that looks really satisfying. I love how that looks. And also the kind of curvature of the middle section here on all of them, that's very nice. Plus you get a lot of nice dark green, always a nice color. This is just a really cool concept and pretty different from what we normally talk about. We've normally got, robots and character builds and beasts and stuff, but nothing wrong with some mechanical like tanks and, mech fighting machines and stuff like that. Always cool. Fatar Flamencia has built Unstable Reality of a Girl. The concept on this one is very unique. A lady who has batteries that slot into the back of her head or into her actual back. That's such an awesome idea, and actually these batteries are really well made. As soon as you look at them, it's instantly recognizable as to what they are, and they kind of need to be, because if that's a bit confusing as to what is being slotted into her head or into her back, it's just going to confuse the concept. So yeah, a lot of attention was put into these batteries. They are stunning. I enjoy this shot of her kind of cradling this battery. It's a cool idea to see her relationship to these batteries, given that they, give her life. But I also really enjoy these shots that showcase just how posable the character is. I've always said that high levels of posability and then actually photographing them in a bunch of poses to demonstrate the posability It's such a great way of communicating and showcasing character, but it's also a great way to make a mock feel just so full of life and so full of personality. And this build certainly has a lot of life and a lot of character to them. The hair design is probably one of my favourite parts of this mock. The fact that it uses the Lego Dots bracelet piece is just really cool, and it allows for images like this where the hair can kind of freely flow and move. That's just really cool, really taking advantage of the nature of that piece, given how flexible it is. The arm design is very simple and simplistic, but that's why I like it. It works really well here because we've got a few tiny system additions on these arms, like these tooth plate pieces. We can see them at the ends of the arm as they connect into the upper arm here. I love just the inclusion of that one piece there. The fact that the tooth part nicely slots into the natural gap that's seen towards the top of the socket there. That's just cool. Putting all these little system pieces like this, it's a great way of just filling up the holes and the gaps in this piece, but still keeping it very slim and minimal. So you end up with a really clean and beautiful looking design, but actually not much is happening there. Sometimes that simplicity and just only adding a couple little different things there, while it might sound easy to do, sometimes it can be actually quite difficult to perfectly nail a level of simplicity, and this is a great example of that. They've just neatly enhanced that arm design, buffed it out ever so slightly, but maintained that original look of the piece. That's really clever, that's really well done. As is the rest of this mock, man, this is really well built. JP has built Optimus Prime and Jazz as our final mock for this episode. Alright, so first things first, unfortunately these don't actually transform, which is a shame, but you know what, Transformers in their robot modes, they always look pretty cool, so bringing them to life in LEGO, that's always a win in my books. Now let's start off with Jazz. It's nice to see the torso design that's been used here uses a lot of different Technic pieces to mimic the shape of a car. You know, knowing that this is a Transformer, it's easy to see that there's that kind of car shape in there. But this design I think would still work well on a regular Bionicle build. It looks enough like armor and it's still a pretty cool design. I also enjoy these car doors flowing out of the back of Jazz here. Honestly, just like the energy of these jutting out just looks really cool. This same design I think actually would work well on a Transformer build, but would have pretty good roots in just a general classic character too. I think that's a good thing to note with these builds, that most Transformer sets had pretty cool looking character designs. It's worth studying some of those Transformer toys and having a look at some of the stuff that they did and seeing if you can apply it to your own Bionicle characters, because they're all pretty cool. Moving over to Optimus Prime now, this head design is very nice. It uses this interesting perpendicular split piece for his very iconic faceplate. It's a good way of mimicking that. It's funny because I think that face design could have easily been achieved by using system pieces or other, system slope pieces and stuff. But, I kind of like that they didn't do that. There's something about this entire version of Optimus Prime and Jazz too. It's just really nice to see that this mock is almost exclusively using Technic and Bionicle pieces and barely any system. There's a tiny little bit on the very well-designed sort of truck part of Optimus Prime's torso. We've got the little headlights as system pieces, and I think that's very appropriate. But otherwise, there's not much else. It's just kind of a bit of a blast from the past and just kind of really refreshing to not see so much system being used, because a lot of modern mocks today pack in so many system pieces, and I love that. I think it's really cool. But it is nice to go back to some of the earlier roots of Bionicle mocks and just kind of exclusively use Technic and Bionicle stuff, because it's a very different aesthetic and one that looks really, really cool, as we can see here. So yeah, I like that they haven't done that and they've just stuck to more traditional roots. That's pretty cool. Not that there's anything wrong with system, of course. So that's 2 wonderful Transformer mocks. Hope you enjoyed this fan-submitted mocks episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series today. Be sure to check the links in the description to see some of the other links to other stuff that these builders have done. All of that is waiting for you there, as are links to my own social media, so if you want to check out some of the stuff that I've got going on, that's where you can do so. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Happy building, and bye for now.